The bass thundered through the VIP lounge of the Crimson Cage nightclub, but Isabella Chen barely heard it over the pounding of her own heart as she pushed through the velvet curtain. Her best friend Rachel's voice echoed in her ears. 3 seconds, just kiss him for 3 seconds and I'll pay for the entire Miami trip. It was stupid, reckless, but Isabella had spent the last 6 months cleaning up other people's messes as a crisis management consultant, her life a careful balance of control and caution. Maybe it was the champagne. Maybe it was exhaustion from her latest client, a tech CEO who'd embezzled millions. Maybe she just needed to do something that wasn't carefully calculated. The man sat alone in the corner booth, dressed in black on black, his presence somehow commanding despite his stillness. Even from across the room, Isabella could see the sharp lines of his jaw, the way other club patrons gave his section a wide berth without seeming to realize they were doing it. She crossed the distance before her courage could fail, her red dress clinging to her body with each step. When she reached his booth, his eyes lifted to hers. They were dark, almost black in the club lighting, and completely unreadable. Isabella didn't give herself time to think. She leaned down and pressed her lips to his. 1 second, his lips were warm, surprisingly soft. 2 seconds, his hand came up to cup the back of her neck, not forcing, just holding. 3 seconds, she pulled away, her heart hammering, a triumphant smile forming on her lips. Then he smiled back, and Isabella's blood turned to ice. "Isabella Chen," he said, his voice barely audible over the music but somehow cutting through it like a blade. "Crisis management specialist, Stanford MBA, divorced from FBI agent Marcus Wright 2 years ago. You have a cat named Hemingway and you're allergic to shellfish." His thumb stroked the side of her neck where her pulse was racing. "Did you really think I wouldn't know who was about to kiss me?" Isabella jerked back, but his hand on her neck became firmer, not painful but immovable. "Sit down, Isabella. We have things to discuss." "I don't know what you're talking about," Isabella managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "It was just a dare." "I know, your friend Rachel owes $75,000 to people I do business with. Gambling debts are so predictable." He released her neck and gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit, please." Isabella sat, her mind racing through options. She could scream, but somehow she knew security wouldn't come. She could run, but where? And what had he meant about Rachel? "My name is Victor Kane," he continued, settling back in his seat with the casual confidence of a man who controlled everything around him. "And you just walked into my world. Leaving isn't as simple as walking back out." "That's dramatic. It was a 3-second kiss, not a marriage proposal." Victor's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That kind of confidence is either breathtaking or suicidal. I haven't decided which yet." He poured champagne into 2 glasses, sliding one toward her. "Do you know what I do, Isabella?" "I don't care what you do, I'm leaving." She started to stand. "I own half of Koreatown, the legitimate businesses and the ones that operate in the shadows. I control the port traffic for 3 terminals, and as of yesterday I own 60% of your PR firm, Chen Crisis Management." He watched her freeze. "Your partner David had some unfortunate gambling problems. I solved them. Now I own him, which means I own you." Isabella sank back into her seat, her mind spinning. David's weird behavior the last month, the closed-door meetings, his insistence that they take on the Nexus Tech client despite the obvious red flags. "You're lying." Victor pulled out his phone, turned it toward her. She saw the contract, David's signature, the transfer of shares, her firm, the business she'd built from nothing after her divorce when everyone told her she'd fail. "What do you want?" Isabella asked, her voice flat. "I need someone to manage a situation. 3 weeks ago there was an incident at one of my warehouses, a gas leak officially. 18 people died. The investigation is pointing toward negligence. I need it to go away." He took a sip of champagne. "You're going to make that happen." "I don't cover up murders." "You don't?" Victor's eyebrow raised. "Interesting, because 6 months ago you helped Senator Morrison bury a DUI that killed a pedestrian. 4 months ago you cleaned up the Hartwell Pharmaceuticals scandal where their clinical trials falsified data, leading to 3 patient deaths. 2 months ago." "Stop," Isabella's hands clenched into fists. "Those were different." "Were they? You help powerful people escape consequences. I'm just another powerful person, Isabella. The only difference is I'm honest about what I am." Isabella stared at him, hatting that he was right. She'd rationalized every client, every covered-up crime, telling herself she was just doing her job, that the legal system would handle it if the evidence was there, but she'd made sure the evidence was never there. "If I refuse," she asked. Then the real story of the warehouse comes out, along with your involvement in covering up crimes for your previous clients, anonymous tips to the FBI, the media. Your career is over, and David's gambling debts come due immediately. He has a wife, 2 kids. Do you want their blood on your hands? Isabella felt the trap close around her. This was what she got for 3 seconds of recklessness, 3 seconds that would define the rest of her life. "One job," she said. "I do this one thing and we're done." Victor laughed and the sound made Isabella's skin crawl. "Oh, Isabella, we're just getting started." He stood, buttoning his jacket. "My driver will take you home. Tomorrow morning 9 a.m. my office, the address will be texted to you." He leaned down, his lips close to her ear. "That was a good kiss, by the way. We'll have to do it again sometime, when you actually mean it." He walked away, and Isabella sat frozen in the booth, champagne untouched, her entire world crumbling around her. When she finally made it back to Rachel in the main club, her friend was laughing with a group of people Isabella didn't recognize. "Izzy, you did it, I saw you. God, you're crazy." Isabella grabbed Rachel's arm, pulling her toward the exit. "We need to talk, now." Outside, the cool night air hit Isabella's face like a slap. "How much do you owe, Rachel? And don't lie to me." Rachel's smile faded. "What are you talking about?" "Victor Kane, he says you owe $75,000. Is it true?" Rachel's face went pale. "How do you know about that? Izzy, I was going to tell you, When were you going to tell me? Before or after I finished selling my soul to pay for your mistakes?" Isabella's voice rose, months of careful control shattering. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I didn't know you'd get involved. I didn't think." "No, you didn't think, you never do." Isabella stepped back, suddenly exhausted. "Go home, Rachel, and don't contact me again." "Izzy, please." "I mean it, we're done." Isabella walked away, not looking back even as Rachel called her name. A black car pulled up beside her, window rolling down to reveal a professional-looking driver. "Miss Chen, Mr. Kane sent me to ensure you got home safely." Of course he did, because Victor Kane controlled everything now, including her. The next morning, Isabella stood outside a gleaming tower in downtown Los Angeles, the address Victor had texted her. The building was legitimate, housing law firms and financial consultants, but she knew the real business happened behind closed doors. The elevator required a key card to access the top floor. The driver from last night handed it to her without a word. As the elevator climbed, Isabella studied her reflection in the polished steel doors. She'd worn her armor, a charcoal suit and heels that added 3 inches to her 5'6" frame. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun. She looked like the crisis management specialist she was, professional, competent. Definitely not someone who'd impulsively kissed a crime lord on a dare. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city. The furniture was minimalist and expensive, and Victor Kane sat behind a massive desk, looking every bit the legitimate businessman in a navy suit. "Punctual, I appreciate that," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Coffee, tea?" "Let's just get this over with." Isabella sat, placing her briefcase on her lap like a shield. Victor slid a folder across the desk. "The warehouse incident, fire investigation report, witness statements, preliminary findings, read it." Isabella opened the folder. Scanning the documents, the official story was a gas leak caused by faulty equipment and poor maintenance, but the photos showed something else: burn patterns that suggested accelerant, exit doors that had been chained shut from the outside. This wasn't negligence, this was murder. "Who did this?" she asked, looking up at Victor. "Does it matter?" "Yes, because if I'm going to bury this, I need to know what I'm actually burying." Victor studied her for a long moment. "A rival organization wanted to send a message. They chose one of my warehouses. The workers inside were collateral damage." 18 people, collateral damage. Isabella's stomach turned. "And you want me to make this go away so you can keep doing business with the people who murdered them?" "I want you to make this go away so that the families of those 18 people get their death benefits, their insurance payouts and closure. If this becomes a criminal investigation into gang activity, those families get nothing. The warehouse was operating partially off the books. Half those workers were undocumented. Their families will be deported if this blows up." Victor leaned forward. I'm not asking you to protect murderers, Isabella. I'm asking you to protect innocent people from becoming additional victims. Isabella hated that he was making sense, hated that he'd found the one argument that might actually work on her. And the people who did this, what happens to them? That's not your concern. The hell it isn't. If I'm covering this up, I want to know justice is being served somewhere. Victor's smile was cold. Justice will be served, my way, which is considerably more permanent than the legal system. Isabella closed the folder, her decision made even though every instinct screamed at her to run. I'll need complete access to all documents, all witnesses, no interference from your people, and when this is done, we're finished. You delete whatever leverage you have over me and David. Agreed, with one modification. You work for me for 6 months. After that, if you want out, you're free to go. 6 months, that wasn't the deal. The deal changed. 6 months, Isabella, or I can make one phone call and David's family loses everything tonight. Isabella wanted to throw the folder at his smug face. Instead, she extended her hand. 6 months, then I never want to see you again. Victor shook her hand, his grip firm and warm. We'll see how you feel in 6 months. People tend to surprise themselves in my world. Over the next 2 weeks, Isabella dove into the warehouse case with the same intensity she brought to all her work. She interviewed witnesses, reviewed fire codes, consulted with independent investigators. And slowly she built a narrative, faulty equipment from a legitimate supplier, a maintenance company that had cut corners, a tragic accident that could have been prevented with better oversight. It wasn't the truth, but it was plausible enough that the investigation shifted away from arson and toward corporate negligence. She brokered a quiet settlement with the victims' families, generous enough that they didn't ask too many questions. She planted stories in the media about the dangers of deregulation and the need for better workplace safety standards. She made it go away, and every night she went home to her empty apartment and tried not to think about what she'd become. It was during the 3rd week that Isabella met Victor's brother. She was in Victor's office, reviewing final documents for the warehouse closure, when a man walked in without knocking. He had Victor's features but softer, his expression more open. Victor, we need to talk about the port. He stopped, seeing Isabella. Oh, sorry, didn't know you had company. Isabella, this is my brother Daniel. Daniel, this is Isabella Chen. She's handling the warehouse situation. Daniel's eyes widened slightly. The crisis management specialist. Victor's told me about you. He extended his hand, his smile genuine. It's good to meet you. My brother needs someone with your skills. There was something in the way he said it, a slight emphasis on skills that made Isabella's instincts prickle. But she shook his hand, noting that his grip was less firm than Victor's, his palm slightly damp. I'll come back later, Daniel said, already backing toward the door. Nice meeting you, Isabella. After he left, Isabella turned to Victor. He seems nervous. Daniel's always nervous. He's not built for this life, but family is family. Victor's expression was unreadable. Is the warehouse situation closed? As closed as it's going to get. The investigation is being marked as accidental death due to negligence. No criminal charges. The families have been compensated. Media has moved on. Excellent work. Victor stood, moving to the window. You're very good at this, Isabella, better than I expected. Don't sound so surprised. You're the one who blackmailed me into working for you. True, but there's a difference between being competent and being exceptional. You're exceptional. He turned to face her, which is why I have another job for you. We had a deal, one situation, and you handled it beautifully. Now I have another situation, a legitimate one actually. I'm hosting a charity gala next week. Major donors, city officials, media coverage, I need you to manage it. Isabella laughed, the sound bitter. A charity gala, what are you trying to buy respectability now? I'm trying to exist in both worlds, Isabella, the legitimate and the shadow. To do that I need the right image, and you're going to give it to me. This is insane. I'm a crisis management specialist, not an event planner. You're whatever I need you to be. That's the job. Victor moved closer, close enough that Isabella could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. One gala, show the world that Victor Kane is a legitimate businessman who cares about the community. Is that so hard? Everything with you is hard, Isabella muttered, but she was already mentally organizing the event. Guest lists, media contacts, catering. It was actually less morally compromising than covering up mass murder. Fine, one gala, but I'm billing you my premium rate. I wouldn't expect anything less. The week leading up to the gala was chaos. Isabella coordinated with caterers, decorators, security teams. She reached out to her contacts in local media, pitching stories about Victor Kane's charitable work. She crafted press releases and talking points, building a narrative of a successful businessman giving back to his community. And through it all, Victor was there, reviewing every detail, questioning every choice, pushing her to make it better. He was demanding, frustrating, and infuriatingly right about most things. The ice sculptures need to go, he said 3 days before the event, looking at the mock-up Isabella had approved. The ice sculptures are staying. They're elegant and they photograph well. They're cliché and pretentious. Get rid of them. You hired me to manage this event, so let me manage it. The sculptures stay. Victor stared at her, and Isabella prepared for another argument. Then he smiled, that dangerous smile that made her pulse quicken for reasons she didn't want to examine. You're not afraid of me at all, are you? I'm terrified of you. I'm just better at hiding it than most people. Good, fear is honest, respect I have to earn. He waved at the mock-up. Keep your ice sculptures, but if they melt into obscene shapes, I'm blaming you. The night of the gala arrived with perfect Lowe's Angels weather. The venue, a restored theatre in downtown, glowed with lights. Guests arrived in expensive cars, dressed in designer clothes, ready to be seen supporting a good cause. Isabella wore a midnight blue gown that she'd bought specifically for the event, telling herself it was for professional reasons. Even as she admitted, she wanted Victor to see her as something other than the woman he'd trapped into working for him. She needn't have worried. When Victor saw her, something flickered in his eyes, there and gone so quickly she might have imagined it. He wore a tailored tuxedo that somehow made him look more dangerous, not less. You clean up well, he said, offering his arm. So do you. Try not to threaten anyone tonight. I'll do my best, but I'm not making any promises. The gala was flawless. Isabella worked the room with practiced ease, introducing Victor to city council members and philanthropists, steering conversations away from anything controversial. She watched him transform before her eyes, becoming charming and approachable, telling self-deprecating stories about his immigrant parents and his journey building his business empire. It was a performance and they both knew it, but it was a convincing one. You're good at this, Isabella murmured during a quiet moment near the bar. The whole respectable businessman thing almost makes me forget what you really are. What I really am is complicated, Isabella, just like what you really are. Victor's hand settled on the small of her back, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. We're not so different, you and I. We're completely different. I don't murder people. No, you just help people get away with it. Tell me which is worse, the person who pulls the trigger or the person who makes sure they never face consequences. Before Isabella could respond, someone bumped into her from behind, hard enough that she stumbled forward into Victor. His arms came around her immediately, steadying her, and she felt the solid warmth of his chest against her cheek. Watch where you're, Victor's words cut off abruptly. Isabella felt him tense, felt something warm and wet spreading against her hand where it rested on his side. She pulled back and her palm came away red. Paint, she thought absurdly. It's just red paint from some decoration. But Victor's face had gone pale, his jaw clenched with pain, and Isabella realized with horror that the red wasn't paint at all. Victor, she pressed her hand back against his side, feeling the sticky warmth soaking through his tuxedo. Oh God, someone shot you, someone just shot you. Get down, Victor growled, already pushing her toward the floor even as his other hand reached inside his jacket. Around them chaos erupted. Guests screamed, running for exits. Security personnel materialized from nowhere, weapons drawn, shouting orders. Isabella's crisis management training kicked in. She pressed both hands against Victor's wound, applying pressure even as he tried to push her away. Stop moving, you idiot, you're making it worse. Isabella, get out of here, now. Victor's face was grey, sweat beading on his forehead. It's not safe. I'm not leaving you. Where's your security? We need to get you to a hospital. 2 men in black suits appeared, lifting Victor despite his protests. Isabella stayed with them, her hands still pressed against the wound, her blue dress now stained crimson. She was vaguely aware of people shouting, of police sirens in the distance, but all her focus was on keeping Victor conscious. They loaded him into a car, Isabella climbing in beside him. Not a hospital, Victor managed, his breathing labored. Too many questions, safe house, Marcus knows the way. The driver, Marcus, nodded grimly and the car shot forward. Isabella kept pressure on the wound, her medical training from years ago surfacing. You're going to be fine. The bullet went through, I think. Lots of tissue damage, but you'll survive if we can stop the bleeding. You have medical training. Victor's eyes found hers, slightly unfocused. 2 years of pre-med before I switched to business, I remember enough. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline flooding her system. Who did this? Who shot you? Could be anyone, business rivals, the cartel, someone with a grudge. He grimaced as the car hit a bump. Occupational hazard. This is insane. Your life is insane. But Isabella didn't move her hands, didn't let up the pressure. She'd spent 3 weeks working for this man, resenting every moment, and now the thought of him dying made her chest tight with something that felt dangerously close to panic. The safe house turned out to be a luxury condo in Santa Monica, minimalist and anonymous. Marcus helped Victor inside, while Isabella grabbed the first aid supplies Marcus indicated. She treated plenty of injuries during her brief medical school stint, but never a gunshot wound. I need you to lie down, she told Victor, spreading towels on the leather couch, and I need you to be quiet and let me work. Bossy, Victor muttered, but he obeyed, his face tight with pain. Isabella cut away his ruined tuxedo shirt, exposing the wound, just as she'd thought, through and through. The bullet had entered his left side, missing vital organs by inches, and exited through his back. She cleaned the wounds, her hands steady despite the fear coursing through her. This is going to hurt, she warned before pouring antiseptic over the entry wound. Victor hissed between his teeth but didn't cry out. You're enjoying this? A little bit, yes. Isabella worked quickly, packing the wounds with gauze, wrapping bandages around his torso. You need antibiotics, and probably actual medical attention from someone who isn't me. I have a doctor on call, he'll be here within the hour. Victor caught her wrist as she reached for more bandages. Thank you for not running, for staying. Isabella looked down at their joined hands, his blood still drying on her skin. I didn't have a choice, remember, you owe me for 6 months. You had a choice tonight, you could have left when the shooting started, but you didn't. His thumb stroked the inside of her wrist, right over her racing pulse. Why? Because I'm apparently an idiot who can't let people die even when they're blackmailing me. Isabella pulled her hand away, uncomfortable with the intimacy of the moment. Don't read too much into it. But Victor was already reading too much into it. She could see it in his eyes. That calculating look that said he was filing this information away, figuring out how to use it. The doctor arrived 40 minutes later, a tired-looking man in his 60s who asked no questions and worked with efficient silence. He confirmed Isabella's assessment, gave Victor antibiotics and pain medication, and left instructions for wound care. After he left, Isabella found herself alone with Victor in the safe house. Marcus had gone to handle the aftermath at the Gala, coordinate with police, deal with the media. They were supposed to stay here until he gave the all-clear. You should rest, Isabella said, cleaning blood off her hands in the kitchen sink. Her dress was ruined, sticky and stiff with dried blood. She changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt from the safe house's supply closet, feeling strange and vulnerable in borrowed clothes. Can't sleep, too much adrenaline. Victor was propped up on the couch, shirt off, bandages stark white against his skin. Talk to me, distract me. What do you want to talk about? You tell me something true, something you don't tell anyone. Isabella laughed, the sound harsh. You want confessions now, while you're high on pain medication. Especially while I'm high on pain medication. Come on, Isabella, I almost died tonight. Humor a dying man. You're not dying, you're barely injured. I was shot, I'm claiming dramatic license. Victor patted the couch beside him. Sit, please. Against her better judgment, Isabella sat, careful not to jostle him. The condo was quiet, just the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic. What do you want to know? Why did you really divorce your husband? Marcus Wright, FBI agent. From the outside you looked perfect together. Isabella tensed. That's personal. Everything about us is personal now. You saved my life tonight, Isabella. That creates a bond whether you like it or not. He was right, damn him. Isabella stared at her hands, still seeing traces of blood under her fingernails. Marcus was a good man, is a good man, but he was also a Boy Scout who believed in right and wrong, black and white, and I was a crisis management specialist who lived in the grey. Every case I took, every client I defended, he saw it as me compromising my morals. We fought about it constantly. So you left him? He left me, said he couldn't watch me destroy myself helping people escape justice. Isabella's voice was bitter. The irony is that he was right. I did destroy myself piece by piece. I just didn't stop when he left. Victor was quiet for a long moment. You think I'm the same as your ex-clients, rich and powerful, using you to escape consequences? Aren't you? No, I'm not escaping anything, Isabella. I chose this life. I live with the consequences every day. I just refuse to let those consequences destroy innocent people. He shifted, wincing. The warehouse workers, their families, I couldn't bring them back, but I could make sure their deaths weren't meaningless, that their families weren't punished for my mistakes. That's why I needed you. And the shooting tonight, was that consequences too? That was someone trying to start a war. They failed because you were there. Victor's hand found hers, his fingers lacing through hers. I owe you my life, Isabella Chen. That's not a debt I take lightly. Isabella looked at their joined hands, feeling the calluses on his palms, the warmth of his skin. This was dangerous, more dangerous than the shooting, than the blackmail, than anything else that had happened, because she was starting to care about this man. And that was a complication she couldn't afford. You don't owe me anything, she said, but she didn't pull her hand away. I was just doing what any decent person would do. You're not just any decent person. You're extraordinary and terrifying, and I'm in serious trouble because I can't stop thinking about you. Isabella's breath caught. Victor. I know it's a bad idea. You hate me. I'm blackmailing you. We're all wrong for each other. He pulled her closer, careful of his injured side. But I can't stop thinking about that kiss, the one in the club, the one you gave me before you knew who I was. That was a dare. It didn't mean anything. Didn't it? His free hand came up to cup her cheek, thumb stroking along her jaw. Then why are you shaking? Why is your pulse racing? Why are you looking at me like you want to run away and stay all at once? Because this is crazy. Because you're my employer and my blackmailer, and you almost died tonight, and I'm not thinking clearly. But Isabella was leaning in, drawn by something she couldn't name and didn't want to examine. Then don't think. Victor closed the distance between them, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was nothing like the one in the club. This was slow, deliberate questioning, giving her time to pull away, to say no, to remember all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Isabella kissed him back instead. Her hands came up to frame his face, careful not to touch his injured side, and she poured 3 weeks of frustration and fear and unwanted attraction into the kiss. He tasted like pain medication and danger and something uniquely him, and she wanted more even as her brain screamed at her to stop. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victor rested his forehead against hers. Tell me this is a bad idea. Tell me to stop. It's a terrible idea, the worst idea I've ever had. Isabella's fingers traced the line of his jaw, feeling stubble rough under her touch. And I don't want you to stop. They kissed again, deeper this time, and Isabella felt herself falling into something she couldn't control. She'd spent her entire life being careful, being smart, making calculated decisions. And in 3 weeks, Victor Kane had demolished every carefully constructed wall she'd built. We should talk about this, Victor murmured against her lips. Set boundaries, figure out what this means. Later, right now I just want. Isabella cut herself off, not sure how to finish that sentence. What do you want, Isabella? I don't know, that's the problem. She pulled back, putting distance between them. 3 weeks ago I had my life planned out, my business, my rules, my control. Then I walked into that club and everything fell apart. Or everything came together. Victor caught her hand, pulling her back. Maybe you were already falling apart, Isabella. Maybe you just needed someone to catch you. Is that what you're doing, catching me? I'm trying to, if you'll let me. Isabella wanted to say no, wanted to pull away, to rebuild her walls, to pretend this moment hadn't happened. But Victor's hand was warm in hers, his eyes honest for once, and she was so tired of being alone. 6 months, she said quietly. You said I work for you for 6 months. What happens after that? After that you're free to stay or go, your choice. Victor's thumb stroked circles on the back of her hand. But I hope you'll stay, not because I'm forcing you, because you want to. I don't know what I want anymore. That's okay, we have time to figure it out. They stayed like that, hands joined, not kissing but not letting go either as the night wore on. Marcus called to say the police were treating the shooting as an isolated incident, gang violence unconnected to Victor personally. The guests had been sent home. The media was reporting a tragic incident at a charity event. Isabella had managed another crisis, even while bleeding all over herself. I should go home, she said as dawn started to lighten the sky. Change clothes, feed my cat. Stay, Victor's eyes were heavy with exhaustion and pain medication. Just a few more hours, I don't want to be alone. It was the vulnerability in his voice that made Isabella's decision. This man who controlled half of Lowe's angels, who'd blackmailed her into working for him, who'd been shot protecting others, didn't want to be alone. And despite everything, neither did she. Okay, a few more hours. Isabella settled beside him on the couch, careful not to jostle his injury. But then I'm going home and pretending this never happened. Liar, but Victor was already falling asleep, his breathing evening out, his hand still holding hers. Isabella stayed awake, watching the sunrise paint the room in shades of gold and pink, wondering what the hell she'd gotten herself into. She'd kissed Victor Kane twice now, once on a dare, once because she wanted to, and she had a feeling that neither of those kisses would be the last. If you're enjoying Isabella and Victor's dangerous romance, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Would you have stayed with him or run? Let me know your thoughts. The next few days were a careful dance. Isabella went back to her normal life, managing her other clients, avoiding Rachel's increasingly desperate phone calls. But every evening she found herself at the safe house, checking on Victor's recovery, bringing files that needed his approval, staying longer than strictly necessary. They didn't kiss again, but the awareness was there, electric and dangerous, every time their hands brushed or their eyes met. A week after the shooting, Marcus called Isabella into Victor's office. We have a situation. Victor wants you on it immediately. Isabella found Victor at his desk, looking tired but healed, the bandages hidden under his usual expensive suit. What's going on? We have a leak. Someone's been feeding information about our operations to the Martinez cartel. That's who shot me at the Gala. That's who killed the warehouse workers. Victor's voice was flat, controlled, but Isabella could see the rage simmering beneath. I need you to find out who. I'm not an investigator. I manage public perception, not internal security. You're smart and people trust you. My own people are terrified of me. They won't talk to Daniel or Marcus, but they'll talk to you. Victor handed her a file. Start with these names. People who have access to sensitive information. Someone on that list is betraying me. Isabella opened the file, scanning the names. Accountants, logistics coordinators, warehouse managers, and near the bottom a name that made her blood run cold. Daniel Kane, Victor's brother. You suspect your own brother. I suspect everyone. That's how you stay alive in this business. Victor's expression was unreadable. But yes, Daniel's been acting strange lately. Nervous, avoiding me. I need to know if he's just scared or if he's the leak. And if he is the leak, what happens then? That's not your concern. The hell it isn't. You're asking me to investigate your brother. I deserve to know what happens if I find evidence against him. Victor was silent for a long moment. If Daniel's betraying me, he dies. There's no other option. Betrayal in my world has only one punishment. Isabella set down the file. Then find someone else. I'm not sending your brother to his death. Even if that brother got 18 innocent workers killed, even if he's trying to start a war that will kill hundreds more. Victor stood, moving around the desk. This isn't about family, Isabella. This is about stopping more people from dying. It's always about family. You said it yourself, family is everything. How can you? Because I've already lost him. Victor's voice cracked just for a second. If Daniel's the leak, he's already chosen sides. All I'm doing is acknowledging reality. Isabella saw the pain in his eyes, quickly hidden, and felt her resolve weaken. This wasn't the ruthless crime lord talking. This was a man facing the possibility that his own brother had betrayed him. 1 week, she said. Give me 1 week to investigate, but if I find evidence against Daniel, you don't kill him. You let me try to flip him, get him to testify against the cartel in exchange for protection. The cartel doesn't offer protection, they offer death. Then we'll hide him, FBI witness protection, My ex-husband still has contacts. We can make this work. Victor studied her, something like hope flickering in his eyes. You do that, even though you hate me. I don't hate you, that's the problem. Isabella picked up the file. 1 week, Victor, then we figure out the truth together. Isabella spent the next week doing what she did best, digging into people's lives, finding connections, following money trails. She interviewed Victor's employees under the guise of improving internal communications. She reviewed financial records, looking for unexplained deposits or expenses. She watched Daniel, noting his patterns, his contacts, his increasingly erratic behavior. And she found evidence, small things at first, a burner phone hidden in Daniel's desk, text messages to unknown numbers, meetings with people who had cartel connections, then bigger things, bank transfers to offshore accounts, encrypted files on his laptop detailing Victor's operations, schedules, security protocols. Daniel Kane was the leak, and he'd been working with the cartel for at least 6 months. Isabella sat in her apartment at 2 a.m, staring at the evidence spread across her coffee table, feeling sick. She'd been hoping she was wrong, hoping Daniel was just nervous about something else, but the evidence was overwhelming. Her phone buzzed. Victor, did you find anything? Isabella closed her eyes. Yes, it's him, it's Daniel. Silence on the other end, then quietly, you're sure? I'm sure, I have bank records, communications, everything. Victor, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, you did what I asked. His voice was hollow, empty of emotion. Send me everything, I'll handle it from here. Wait, we had a deal. I find evidence, we try to flip him. FBI protection, witness testimony. The deal's off, this is family business now. Victor, please, don't do something you can't take back. I already can't take it back, Isabella. My brother betrayed me, got innocent people killed, almost got me killed, there's no coming back from that. He paused. Thank you for your work, take a few days off. We'll talk when this is over. He hung up before Isabella could respond. She stared at her phone, her heart pounding, knowing she'd just signed Daniel's death warrant. She could call the police, but what would she tell them? That a criminal suspected his brother of being a leak to another criminal organization. They'd laugh her out of the station. She could call Marcus, her ex-husband, but he'd ask too many questions, want to know how she'd gotten involved with Victor Kane, and she wasn't ready to face that conversation. So Isabella did the only thing she could think of. She grabbed her keys and headed for Victor's office, praying she wasn't too late. The building was dark when she arrived, but Victor's private elevator was still operational with her key card. She rode up, her stomach churning, not sure what she'd find or what she'd say. Victor was at his desk, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at the evidence Isabella had compiled. He didn't look up when she entered. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. Neither should you, not alone, not with this. Isabella moved closer, seeing the grief etched in every line of his face. Victor. He's my baby brother. I raised him after our parents died. I taught him everything. How to tie his shoes, how to drive, how to survive in this world. Victor's hand clenched around the glass, and he repaid me by selling me out to the people who murdered 18 innocent workers. Maybe he was scared, maybe they threatened him. He had 6 months to come to me, 6 months to tell me he was in trouble. Instead he led them right to me. Victor finally looked at her, and Isabella saw the tears he was fighting. Do you know what I have to do now? I have to kill my own brother, because if I don't, every person in my organization will see me as weak. The cartel will see me as weak, and more people will die. Isabella moved around the desk, taking the glass from his hand and setting it aside. Then don't do it, walk away. Dismantle your empire, take your money and disappear. You don't have to live this life anymore. Yes, I do, because if I walk away, someone worse takes over. Someone who won't care about the workers, the families, the collateral damage. Victor's hands came up to frame her face. You don't understand. This isn't just business, it's responsibility. I control half this city. What I do, what I decide, affects thousands of lives. And what about your life? What about what this is doing to you? Isabella's hands covered his. You're not a monster, Victor. You're a man who's been put in an impossible situation, but you don't have to do this alone. What are you suggesting? Let me help you. We find Daniel, we get him somewhere safe, and we figure this out together. Maybe there's another way. Maybe we can use him to take down the cartel, to stop this war before it starts. Victor laughed, the sound broken. You still believe in happy endings, don't you? even after everything you've seen, everything you've done. I believe in not giving up, in fighting for the people we care about, even when it seems impossible. Isabella's voice softened. You care about Daniel, I can see it. Don't let this world take that away from you. For a moment, Victor just looked at her. Then he pulled her close, burying his face in her hair, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Isabella held him, this dangerous man who'd blackmailed her into his service, who'd turned her life upside down, who was breaking apart in her arms. I can't lose him, Victor whispered. He's all I have left. You have me, Isabella said, and meant it. Somewhere over the past month, Victor had stopped being just her blackmailer and started being something more, something she was afraid to name. Whatever happens, you have me. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the darkness. The evidence of Daniel's betrayal spread across the desk between them and the city lights twinkling far below. Finally, Victor pulled back, wiping his eyes. Okay, we try your way, we find Daniel, we get him safe, we figure out how to use this against the cartel. But Isabella, if this goes wrong. It won't, trust me. I do, that's the terrifying part. Finding Daniel turned out to be easier than expected. He was at the safe house in Santa Monica, the same place Victor had recovered from his gunshot wound. When Isabella and Victor arrived, they found him packing a bag with shaking hands. Going somewhere, Victor asked from the doorway, his voice cold. Daniel spun around, his face going pale. Victor, I wasn't. Spare me the lies, I know everything. The cartel contacts, the bank transfers, the information you've been feeding them. Victor stepped into the room and Isabella saw Daniel flinch. What I don't know is why. Why did you betray me, Daniel? What did they offer you that was worth 18 lives? They were going to kill me, Daniel said, his voice breaking. After the Martinez family deal went bad, they said I was responsible. They said they'd kill me unless I gave them information. He looked at Isabella desperately as if she might save him. I didn't know about the warehouse. I swear, I didn't know they were going to kill those workers. But you knew they were going to kill me. At the gala, that's why you weren't there that night. Victor's voice was deadly quiet. You set me up to die, Daniel, your own brother. I thought you'd survive, you always survive, I thought. Daniel collapsed onto the bed, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Victor, I was scared and stupid and I didn't know what else to do. Isabella watched Victor's expression, saw the war between anger and grief playing across his features. Victor, she said softly, remember what we talked about. Another way. There is no other way, he betrayed me, he has to pay the price. Then let him pay it by helping us take down the cartel, use his connections, his information, make his betrayal mean something. Isabella moved between the brothers. You told me you control this world to keep innocent people safe, so keep Daniel safe. Give him a chance to make this right. Daniel looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. I'll do anything, please Victor, I'll testify, I'll wear a wire, I'll do whatever you need, just don't, his voice broke. Please don't kill me. Victor was silent for so long Isabella thought he'd refuse. Then slowly he nodded. One chance, you work with Isabella to take down the cartel. You give us everything, every contact, every deal, every piece of information. And when it's done, you disappear. New identity, new life. You never use the Kane name again. I can arrange FBI witness protection, Isabella added. My ex-husband still owes me a favor, but Daniel, if you betray Victor again, there's nothing I can do to save you. I won't, I swear, thank you both. Daniel stood, moving toward Victor with his arms outstretched. Victor stepped back, his expression cold. We're not family anymore, Daniel, remember that. This is a business arrangement, nothing more. The pain on Daniel's face was devastating, but he nodded, lowering his arms. I understand. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel gave them everything. Names, locations, financial records, shipping routes. Isabella worked with Marcus, her ex-husband, to coordinate FBI raids on cartel operations. They seized millions in drugs and weapons, arrested dozens of cartel members, and dismantled the Martinez family's Los Angeles operations. And through it all, Victor was there, watching Isabella work, seeing her in her element. She coordinated with law enforcement, managed media coverage, turned a criminal investigation into a story about heroes fighting the good fight. You're incredible, Victor said one night, finding Isabella in his office reviewing final reports. The way you spin narratives, control the story, I've never seen anything like it. I'm just doing my job, but Isabella smiled, warmed by the praise. It's more than that. You believe in what you're doing, in making something good come from something terrible. Victor moved closer, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. You make me want to believe in it too. You already do. You saved Daniel when you could have killed him. You worked with the FBI when you could have handled this your way. Isabella's hand covered his where it rested against her cheek. You're not the monster you pretend to be, Victor Kane. Maybe not, or maybe you're just bringing out the best in me. He leaned down, his lips brushing hers in a kiss that was tender and questioning. I think I'm falling in love with you, Isabella Chen. Is that insane? Completely insane, Isabella whispered against his lips. I'm falling in love with you too. They kissed again, deeper this time, months of tension and fear and unwanted attraction finally finding release. Victor's hands slid into her hair, tilting her head for better access, and Isabella pressed closer, feeling the solid warmth of him against her. We're a disaster, Victor murmured between kisses. We're all wrong for each other. Absolutely wrong. Isabella's fingers traced the scar on his side, the reminder of how close she'd come to losing him. But I don't care anymore. I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of pretending I don't want this. What do you want, Isabella? You, all of you, the crime lord and the businessman, the ruthless and the tender, the monster and the man. She pulled back to look at him. Can you give me that, all of you, with no more blackmail, no more threats, just us figuring this out together? What about your 6 months? You still have 2 months left on our agreement. Consider it fulfilled. I'm staying because I want to, not because you're forcing me. Isabella's smile was wry. Though I reserve the right to kill you if you ever try to blackmail me again. Fair enough. Victor kissed her again, slow and sweet. I love you, Isabella. I probably loved you from that first kiss in the club, even when I didn't know what to do with that feeling. I love you too, even though you're infuriating and controlling and you turned my life upside down. I thought you liked your life upside down. I'm starting to, as long as you're there to catch me when I fall. The cartel investigation concluded 3 weeks later with multiple arrests and seizures. Daniel was placed in witness protection, given a new identity in another state. He'd never see Victor again, but he was alive. That would have to be enough. Isabella's ex-husband Marcus cornered her after the final FBI briefing. I don't know how you got involved with Victor Kane, and I probably don't want to know. But be careful, Izzy. Men like him don't change. Maybe not, but I do. Isabella met his gaze steadily. I'm not the woman you divorced anymore, Marcus. I've stopped pretending to be someone I'm not. And who are you now? I'm someone who lives in the grey, who helps people, even complicated people, who's done things I'm not proud of but won't apologize for. Isabella thought about the warehouse cover-up, the lies she told, the evidence she'd buried. I'm someone who's accepted that the world isn't black and white, and I'm okay with that. Marcus shook his head sadly. That's what I was afraid of. Be careful, Izzy. The grey has a way of turning into darkness before you realize it. He walked away and Isabella let him go. He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't entirely right either. That night, Isabella returned to Victor's office one last time. Rachel had been calling all month, desperate to apologize, to explain, to make things right. Isabella had ignored every call, but tonight she finally answered. I'm sorry, Rachel said immediately. Izzy, I'm so sorry. I never meant for you to get involved. I never meant. I know, but that doesn't change what happened. Isabella took a deep breath. Your debt is paid, Rachel. Victor cleared it as a favor to me. You're free. Oh God, Izzy, thank you. How can I ever? You can leave me alone. We're not friends anymore, Rachel. Too much has happened. Too much has changed. Isabella's voice softened slightly. But I hope you get help, for the gambling, for whatever's going on with you. You deserve better than this life. So do you. Maybe, but this is the life I've chosen. Isabella ended the call before Rachel could respond. Victor found her on the office balcony, staring out at the city lights. Everything okay? Just saying goodbye to who I used to be. Isabella turned to face him. I covered up a mass murder for you, Victor. I helped take down your brother. I fell in love with a crime lord. I can't go back to who I was before that kiss. Do you want to? Isabella thought about it, really thought about it. The woman she'd been 3 months ago had been careful and controlled, with clear boundaries and rigid morals. That woman would never have kissed a stranger on a dare, would never have stayed when Victor was shot, would never have fallen in love with someone so dangerous. No, she said finally, I don't want to go back. As terrifying as this is, as complicated and messy and morally ambiguous, it's real, it's honest, it's mine. Victor pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her waist. Then stay, not as my employee or my crisis manager, as my partner. Help me build something better. Use your skills to reshape this empire into something we can both live with. You want me to be the queen to your king. I want you to be whatever you want to be, as long as it's with me. Isabella looked up at him, this man who'd blackmailed her, saved her, loved her. She thought about the warehouse workers, the lies she told, the evidence she'd buried. She thought about Daniel's tears and Marcus's warning and Rachel's desperate apologies. And she thought about the kiss, that 3-second kiss that had changed everything. Okay, she said, let's build something better, together. Victor kissed her as the city sparkled below them, as they stood on the edge of his empire and her conscience, two people who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to make their own light. 6 months later, Isabella stood in a new office, 1 floor below Victor's, with her name on the door. Chen Crisis Management had merged with Kane Industries, creating a legitimate consulting firm that worked with businesses to improve their public image, their community relations, their ethical practices. It was still crisis management, but now Isabella worked to prevent crises rather than just cover them up. She helped businesses create transparent operations, build trust with communities, operate in the light rather than the shadows. Victor's empire was transforming too. The legitimate businesses were growing, expanding. The shadow operations were shrinking, becoming more selective. He'd never be completely clean, but he was trying. For her, for himself, for the future they were building together. Ready, Victor appeared in her doorway, looking devastating in a tailored suit. For what? City Council meeting. They want to talk about our community development proposal. He held out his hand. Let's go show them what we can do. Isabella took his hand, feeling the familiar warmth, the solid strength. They'd come so far from that night in the club, from blackmail and bullets to partnership and love. You know this is insane, right? She said as they walked to the elevator. Us trying to go legitimate, trying to make something good out of all this darkness. Completely insane. Victor pulled her close, kissing her temple. But we're good at insane. We're good at taking impossible situations and finding a way through. We're good at lying to ourselves, you mean? Maybe we're just redefining what's possible. The elevator doors opened and Victor guided her inside. I love you, Isabella Chen. Thank you for that kiss. Thank you for seeing past the monster. Thank you for staying. I love you too. Isabella leaned against him as the elevator descended. And for the record, I'd kiss you again, every time, even knowing how it would end. How do you think it will end? Isabella thought about the warehouse, the shooting, the betrayal and forgiveness. She thought about the empire they were reshaping, the lives they were trying to improve, the darkness they were fighting with imperfect light. I think, she said slowly, we're going to spend the rest of our lives figuring that out, together. Victor smiled, that dangerous smile that had terrified her once and now made her heart race for entirely different reasons. I can live with that. They emerged from the building into Los Angeles sunshine, two people who'd found love in the shadows and brought it into the light. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't simple, but it was theirs, built on truth and compromise and the courage to keep choosing each other despite impossible odds. Isabella Chen had walked into Victor Kane's world with a 3-second kiss. She'd stayed through blackmail and bullets, through betrayal and blood, through fear and falling in love. And now, hand in hand with the crime lord who'd become her partner, she was building a new world. One kiss, one crisis, one impossible choice at a time. Behind them, the city hummed with life and secrets, with darkness and light existing side by side. Just like them, just like the love they'd forged in fire and refused to let burn out. It wasn't the ending Isabella had imagined that night in the club. It was better. It was real. It was theirs. And it was just beginning. If you loved Isabella and Victor's intense journey from blackmail to love, please smash that like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. Was it the shooting at the Gala, the brothers' betrayal, or that first kiss? Would you have taken the risk Isabella did? Let me know, and don't forget to share this with someone who loves dark romance thrillers. Thanks for watching until the very end. You're amazing, and I'll see you in the next story.